Hello everyone! Today we're gonna dive a little bit into the new Preservation Evoker tiersets for patch 11.2. As you all probably know, we get two options for tiersets in this patch, one for each hero tree with completely different effects based on the nodes in that hero tree. There is a lot to talk about, so let's just go right into it, and we're gonna go with Flame Shaper first. As you might expect, Flame Shaper is gonna be the go-to tree for raids, and while it's still playable in Mythic Plus, it is really not good, and there is zero reason to play it over Chrono Warden unless you really like it for some reason. So basically, you can think of the Flame Shaper set as your raiding tier set for the whole patch. The 2-piece bonus adds a 12-second buff called Inner Flame every time you cast Engulf, and Inner Flame increases the healing of your healing over time effects by 40%. This buff can stack up to 2 times. The 4-piece bonus makes it so that any essence burst you spend during the Inner Flame buff causes an essence bomb, which heals people around the target of the essence spell you casted. First, let's go over how this actually works and how it interacts with your spells. For the 2-piece, you should note that the stacks of the buff work overlapping, which means you can have up to 2 stacks of the buff at the same time, but adding a second stack does not refresh the first stack. The first stack will be removed 12 seconds after the Engulf cast, regardless of when you cast the second Engulf, and you don't gain anything by waiting until the last second to Engulf again. In fact, you lose power by having less time on 2 stacks of the buff. And the second important part is that the buff is applied after Consume Flame does healing. Consume Flame heals for a portion of what your Dream Breath heals for, so if you buff Dream Breath, you also increase Consume Flame. And the bonus from the 2-piece does increase Dream Breath and thus Consume Flame. But because of the order the effects happen, Inner Flame won't buff the Consume Flame from the Engulf cast that applied it, but it will buff following Consume Flames. What this means is that your very first Consume Flame will do normal healing, but if you press Engulf again during Inner Flame, the second Consume Flame will have 40% increased healing, and if you then release your stasis with both stacks of Inner Flame active, both Consume Flames for the Engulfs in your stasis will do 180% healing. This basically turns your stasis combo from 4 Engulfs into 6 of them. But, and here's the problem, you have to release the stasis while the Inner Flame buff is still up, which is 12 seconds after the first Engulf. So, once you're done filling your stasis, you really only have 10 seconds to release your stasis, or you lose a ton of healing. For the 4-piece, using your Essence Burst to cast Echo or Emerald Blossom during Inner Flame will send Essence Bombs, and they do a lot of healing. However, the bombs have a travel time, and they also only heal on a tiny area around the original target. The end result of both of these bonuses is that, once again, Consume Flame is doing a shitload of healing, and it's gonna be a big portion of your overall healing. But your stasis is more restricted than ever, because you have to fill it in a very specific way and release it very quickly. You still need to have Call of Viscera on your Dream Breath to increase the healing of Consume Flame. But if you release a Dream Breath from stasis without Call of Viscera up, this weaker Dream Breath will override the Dream Breath you have on yourself and cause weaker Consume Flames. You need to have Call of Viscera up before releasing a stasis that contains a Dream Breath, but you also need to release the stasis in 10 seconds. Because the cooldown of Better Embrace is around 15 seconds, remember that you're gonna go up by 4 seconds when you lose the Season 2 tier set, this means that if you Better Embrace right before you start your stasis, you already mess up the combo, because BE is not gonna be back before Inner Flame expires, so you have to either have a weaker Dream Breath or miss out on Inner Flame. And then, during those 10 seconds you have after storing the stasis, you also should be trying to spend as many Essence Bursts as you can to send Essence Bombs. And you should be using your Essence Burst on Echo, because you can then use Reversion on these Echoes to generate more Essence Burst and send more bombs. The end result here is a very messy playstyle. Your stasis is more complicated because you are more restricted in time. You do have the options of using Burden Embrace way earlier so it's back up before you release, or just not storing Dream Breath at all in the stasis to avoid the overriding problem, but neither of those feel great. And then, in those 10 second windows where you are already focusing on not messing up your stasis and timing it appropriately with damage, you also have to do this weird dance of echoing reversions as many times as possible so you can send Essence Bombs, while also making sure that you're echoing people that are stuck, because Essence Bombs on people that are far away won't do any AoE healing at all. It's just very annoying and has a lot of failure points. It's very easy to trip and mess up on your sequencing. It feels like all your healing is coming from external effects and buffs, and if people are spread, then the value of your 4-piece can tank very quickly. The good side to this set is absurdly powerful. If you manage to handle all the kings and get the proper setup with your group stacked and play it perfectly, you will do such a monstrous amount of healing that you won't believe how this thing made it even to PTR being so stupidly overpowered. It is actually amazing how much healing you can vomit on a raid on demand. The sheer size of your HPS bar is only comparable to the amount of annoyance the playstyle introduces to your life, being so good but also so terrible at the same time. And that's where Flameshaper stands. There is zero complaints to be made about how strong the set is, and it's very likely that it will see nerfs, but the gameplay side of it is really not looking amazing and could use some adjustments. Now, for Chrono Warden, this is gonna take much less time because the set is just way less interesting, really. Not that that is a bad thing necessarily. I personally really like bonuses that are very simple and integrate really well with your spec, but are still powerful, and that is exactly what the Chrono Warden 2-piece does. Before I start, same as I mentioned for Flameshaper above, Chrono Warden is gonna be your go-to tree for Mythic Plus, and there is really no contest about it. Same way you will be trolling to bring a Chrono Warden to raid, you will be doing something terrible showing up to a key as Flameshaper. So just some Chrono Warden refers to dungeons here. And then, the 2-piece bonus is just a flat 60-second cooldown reduction to tip the scales. This is very nice because TTS is a very good ability to have back up more, and coupled with temporal bursts, this is just overall a very good place to outpower to Chrono Warden. Do note that the actual cooldown reduction that temporal burst gives you is very tiny. You only actually get 4.5 seconds of cooldown of other spells every time you press TTS, and that's assuming the other spell was on cooldown for the whole duration. So you're not really gaining a lot of cooldown reduction from the effect. The power comes simply from instant rank 4 Spirit Blooms being absurdly strong, followed by a crap ton of haste. With more TTS available, you might even start using some of Dream Breath, because Dream Breath being a heal over time effect gets increased by haste, and this increase gets rolled in when you uprank it, which means the haste bonus from TTS actually makes rank 4 Dream Breath heal a lot more. You can also send it on Fire Breath from the say haste increased effect and do a lot more DPS. It is just overall very flexible, very strong, and feels great. And it only took one line of a single sentence to accomplish. And this is also where the goodies end, because the Chrono 4-piece is incredibly lackluster as might as well not exist when it comes to your healing. During Temporal Burst, which is the buff you get from using Tip the Scales, your Chrono Flame will heal 2 targets. This works kind of like Leaping Flames, in that damaged Leaping Flames on a single target scenario will cleave into a random injured-friendly target, so on bosses you're doing some passive healing, which is pretty good. But when it comes time to actually heal people, you are not hardcasting Chrono Flames ever, really. You might set 1 or 2 to spend your life burst procs, but you're not gonna be spamming 2 target Chrono Flames when you have much better things to heal that cover the whole group, like Life Binding and a Spirit Bloom on even upranking a Dream Breath. Hardcasted Chrono Flames are not the way Chrono Warden heals people, and the bonus does not work from the free Chrono Flames that you get from Afterimage, only from the ones you actually cast yourself. This means that the bonus is pretty good for doing damage, basically doubling your casted Chrono Flame DPS, but besides that, it's doing very little overall. Compared to other tier sets from other healers, and especially with what Flameshaper is doing in Wraith, this is very weak and lackluster. The spec still feels very good. The recent talent changes added a lot of power to it, and having more tips the scales is great, but the 4-piece is kind of just there, without doing anything very relevant for your healing. You just kind of have to justify it to yourself as increasing your damage and live with that unless it gets changed. And so, that's where we are right now. Flameshaper makes for some very powerful but annoying gameplay in raids, and Chrono Warden is very smooth but kinda disappointing in dungeons. Very well balanced in a way, I suppose. This is still PTR, and all numbers and even the bonuses themselves could change at any point, but as things stand right now, I'm not a huge fan of the current state of things for tier sets. Flameshaper needs some things changed slightly so it stops feeling like you're fighting against the gameplay all the time to squeeze the power out of it, and Chrono Warden needs a new 4-piece bonus that compares in power to what everyone else is doing, instead of getting a weird 2-target DPS clip. I hope this was useful and informative, and please feel free to leave any comments you have about the tier sets below, as I'm very interested to hear what people think about them. Have a great day and bye bye.